reason I'm here is because Jewish Book Week, happening this week, approached me to do some work with children around the theme of my latest book, which is about the righteous among the nations. In fact, the stars of this book are going to feature in some of the things that children are going to say this afternoon. I'm not going to say anything else. It's a pleasure that you're all here. I know you're going to enjoy the next 45 or 50 minutes. Thanks very much.
What is courage? What is courage? My mind is in a spin at the thought. It is what makes you step out from the crowd to do what is right, ignoring the risk. Braving the heat of a burning building to save someone from the flames. Caring for highly contagious Ebola patients and reaching out to save a stranger. People need to help each other. A hand to a hand is the future of our world.
Leocardia Zabinsky was an ordinary woman. In October 1942, she came across a baby left outside a convent on her way to work. Although others walked past, knowing that it had to be a Jewish child, whose parents had come to the terrible decision that it was safer for her to be abandoned and left in the hands of the Nazis, she could not.
At enormous risk to herself, she decided to care for the helpless baby. She knew that any Pole caught giving shelter to a Jew could be killed by the Nazis. She was alone. Her husband had been sent to Auschwitz 2 years earlier as a Polish political prisoner. It was a struggle to feed herself in such hard times, let alone an extra mouth, but she managed to do it. She named the child Bogusa.
Leocardia intended to adopt the child at the end of the war, when miraculously the child's real father returned. Against all the odds, he had managed to survive and had arranged to move to Palestine. Seeing Bogusa leave broke Leocardia's heart. She had cared for the child as if she were her own.
Bogusa's real name was Shifra. As she grew up, all she could remember of her early years was the warmth of the love shown to her by Leocardia. They exchanged many letters over the years. The hand of a hand around a child's mother's neck is the most beautiful necklace, Leocardia wrote in one of them, and nothing can replace it. I kiss you, mother.
At the heart of courage is West. In Nazi-occupied Europe, many people took the risk of hiding Jews, even though they knew the deadly consequences of getting caught.
Don't follow the crowd, follow your instincts. This could result in taking the lead, which requires power. Power is a big part of courage, and what could be more powerful than saving the generations yet to come?
Bravery is not the same as courage. Standing up in front of an audience like this is brave, but it will be over in a few minutes. It takes courage to change your whole life for an indeterminate time to shelter and rescue someone else in danger. Stepping out from a crowd is a hard thing to do. Only special people can find the strength to follow their heart and not be ashamed.
Courage helps you find things about yourself and to make the right choice.
When Irena Sendler was 7, her father told her that if you saw a person drowning in the river, you reach out to save them. That's how she led to life. So when she was an adult working as a health worker in the Warsaw Ghetto, she reached out and saved 2,500 Jewish children. There were nearly 500,000 people crammed into that dread place. The conditions were terrible, and deadly disease took a daily toll on the starving population. She knew she had to act, so she set up a plan to smuggle out as many children as she could. At least they could be saved.
She had to try to convince the mothers to give up their children. Irena always said that this was the hardest thing of all, and that these mothers were the real heroes for giving their children the chance of a life. Irena organised a network of willing volunteers who helped the children come to terms with their suddenly new lives. They were confused and felt abandoned and needed to be loved and calmed down. And then they had to learn everything about their new Christian identity.
Irena was an inspirational person whose memory is recognised by a tree at the entrance of the Garden of Righteous at Yad Vashem.
She hoped that if the children survived, they could live to have beautiful lives that would blossom over generations.
one person is like saving the universe, then by killing one person you murder the world.
Courage is not a one-sided thing. It never will be. All of us have morals and values. What could ever make you forget that?
Being brave is a good thing, but it can start off in a haze of confusion. It's only after time that the fog clears and courage takes over.
Pure, unadulterated terror. It happened so quickly, it was instinctive. I did it for my family.
Sometimes the most ordinary people do the most spectacular things, and the weakest find the strength to do what they believe to be right, despite the risks.
It's easy to think that you're brave or courageous, but it's only in that sudden moment of crisis when I know.
Perseverance is crucial, though sometimes you need to suppress the pain and just carry on doing what you know to be right.
The Gerasimcheks and the Cohorts were friends before the war. The Cohort family were Jewish, and when the Nazis invaded, they were forced to move to the nearby ghetto, but their Polish friends did not forget them. Although it put them at risk, just as the Nazis were planning to send all the ghetto residents to a concentration camp, they smuggled the family out, hidden under the straw in their cart.
For 18 months, the Gerasimcheks were like guardian angels, feeding them and caring for them in a secret room that had been especially built in their barn. At the beginning of their time in hiding, the Cohorts gave their saviors a gold watch with which to pay for their keep. At the end of the war, the watch was returned.
You need courage to skydive or conquer your fear of spiders, but you need more to risk everything you know, to make yourself vulnerable, to give someone else the chance of a life.
There is spontaneity in courage, being the person who turns left when everyone else is turning right. It is a split-second instinctive decision. Where would the world be without those special brave people who offer their hands and refuse to see danger?
We all have a choice. It's up to us. If you faced the dilemmas that people faced during the war, what would you decide to do? To save yourself or to save others? Not many had the courage to save the next generation, to choose life over death. Decisions like that change the world.
If you saw a wounded dog in the street, would you rush to hold its paw and soothe it, or would you walk on by? What if you saw an abandoned child? Would you offer your hand to them too? And what if that child was Jewish and you weren't, and you knew that by helping that child you would be risking your own life? Many would be too scared to act. Only the most courageous would help.
The brave, righteous among the nations did what they did because of the values that lived deep within them. They found the strength that so many terrified others lacked. Their lives were at risk, as vulnerable as a vole in the talons of an eagle.
Saving one life is like saving the world. That child you helped could grow up and marry, starting a line of generations that would have been cut off forever if you would have done nothing.
Sarah Matusin, along with her sister Hannah and mother Gita, was an inmate from Stutthof concentration camp in January 1945. As the war was drawing to a close, the Nazis forced them to leave, along with 1,200 other survivors, dressed in rags and with ill-fitting wooden clogs. The terrible march of death killed hundreds. Sarah's mother pleaded with her daughter to try and escape, and then two miracles happened. First, she managed to dash away from the line without being seen by the Nazis, and second, that in the barn she sought shelter in where 10 British prisoners of war who were working on a nearby farm. These men took pity on Sarah and spent the next few weeks helping her gain strength whilst hiding her in a hayloft. Just before they were moved on, the men found another safe hiding place for Sarah, where she was able to survive the final months of the war. She survived through pure luck, the only person of her family who survived.
Many questions are almost impossible to answer, like what is it that makes someone courageous? The Jews in the Holocaust were powerless, as helpless as a tiny dog, as a tiny hedgehog in the grasping claws of a growling dog.
What is courage? Going on the scariest roller coaster, or risking your life for someone else? Well, maybe it can be both, because once you're on a roller coaster, no matter how scared you are, you can't get off. You have to see it through to the end. just as when the non-Jews committed themselves to save Jews during the war. They had to keep going despite the risks, but they had no idea when their roller coaster journey was going to end. Terror, sheer terror. Both the rescuers and the rescued were caught in its grip.
How can bravery be measured? In school you can earn a sticker for not crying when you fall over, but that hardly compares to the courage of the righteous. Although they did amazing things, they refused to see themselves as heroic.
The lives of the directors of the Warsaw Zoo, Jan and Antonina Zabinsky, were devastated by the German attacks at the beginning of World War II. Many of their animals were killed, and others were taken to zoos inside Germany. They witnessed the security of their Jewish friends crumble into chaos and decided to help. At great risk to themselves, they managed to drive their truck into the ghetto and smuggle Jews out by concealing them in the back. If they had been caught, all of their family, as well as their Jewish friends, would have been killed. The Jews were hidden in the basement of the Zabinsky home like mice being sheltered from a hungry cat. Over the war, 300 lives were saved this way.
We believe it's terribly important to grow up being encouraged to do the right thing. You need to learn from early on that you have control over your own actions, and that the choice of whether to do what is right or wrong is in your own hands. You need to be ready to react to whatever life throws you. You might have the opportunity to be courageous suddenly thrust upon you, like those non-Jews who chose to save Jews during the Holocaust.
What is it to be righteous? To be righteous is to have courage, courage to stand against a crowd, courage to not draw your curtains shut while your neighbours, your friends, cry out. To be righteous is to risk your life to save another, to not spread hatred, nor to condone it. Schindler was righteous, Sendler was too. They risked that knock on the door and the pull of the trigger in order to save vulnerable lives that may have otherwise been ignored by the people who turn their wireless up to block out the screens. But each life saved has a chance to save a life or create life, as if in an infinite pattern. That is what it is to be righteous, is to see everyone as human, even if others may not, and to put another human's needs above your own, even in the face of death.
I work in the Amalia factory. My boss, my protector, is Oskar Schindler. I look around at this mess I find myself in. This mess of narrow-mindedness. A result of the desperation to live, but also something to follow, to be above you. I am lucky. Around me, all over Poland and over half of Europe, my people suffer. My friends, my teachers, surely distant relations unnamed. They are suffering for what they follow, because of an idea that they are lesser beings. Their family trees are uprooted, the leaves scattered, and some of their branches vanish, are burnt and cut away. The Nazis are pruning and trimming the population of Poland to their image. What they want to see is a neat, clean box of a hedge. What they think they see and do not like is a hedge with different branches at awkward angles. They are cutting these branches. I am lucky because I am not beaten. I do not starve. I do not rot in a concentration camp. Yes, I suffer within, my heart aching. I have lost half of my family. My mother and father have been torn away from me, and my brother has left this world. His memory will remain, though, to sustain me. Schindler's written by Daniel Deasy.
I am Oskar Schindler. I used to drink. I used to party. I didn't care. I was happy being a Nazi. I didn't care about others. I didn't care if children were separated from their mothers. All my life, I wanted the money, to make things go smooth and to always be sunny. When the Nazis won, I was given a factory. I suddenly got rich. I was most satisfactory. The Jews were my slaves, and they did whatever I said. And if they ever answered back, they'd be knocked out, dead. Then, one of my friends said that my workers should die. I must hand them over in ovens to fry. But deep down inside of me, something said no. I'm no angel. But they could not go. I could not hand them over and send them to their death. I plotted and schemed so they could have breath. I spent all my money bribing my friends, hiding my workers, disguising my ends, pretending I'd done it, but smuggling them out, pretending I'm loyal, but living in doubt. And then I had nothing. No money, no friends. Nothing to drink, nothing to spend, except for my workers, saved from their death. My greatest treasure was their gentle breath. This is Oskar Schindler by Anna Glasser.
The letter arrived that very morning, half an hour before the rest of the mail. It had been hand-delivered, and I instantly knew something was up. The envelope only bore my first name, which appeared to have been scrawled on in a hurry. I opened the unsealed envelope and read, "I fear we may not cross paths again, but I wish you luck, David." At first I was perplexed. What could he possibly be talking about? I took the letter through to my wife, and as she read it, I saw a look of despair flood her eyes. "We have to leave, Alfred." At this point, I, of course, had many questions, but my wife would not answer these. We told our housekeeper we would be gone a while, as we were off to the shops, and like that, we were gone. Only 10 minutes after the letter arrived. It's funny, when you think about it, how that note from a friend saved my life. This is the story of how my Grandpa George and his family escaped Czechoslovakia just 6 hours before the Nazi invasion.
I never was a rule breaker. I didn't live in fear. But now I find myself wishing that Jews could disappear. It's not what I believe in, but what am I to do? They passed a law, in helping Jews, they'll come right after you. But still I disobey them, yet every single night I eat dinner with the Nazis, selling pigs based on weight and height. It never used to be like this. We were living side by side. Then on September 1st, the Germans came, and now thousands have died. It started with the ghetto, and we were asked to help. It wasn't realised at the time that the pain caused them to yell. First the animals were taken, and we were no longer a zoo. Our dear friends came to ask us if we could hide them in their crew. We just could not refuse them. It just was not polite. So now there are Jews in my basement, for morning, day and night. But what happens when the Nazis come and discover the hiding Jews? What happens when they shoot them all and I'll have to pay my dues? Then with recent law changes, they'll shoot me down the same, and all of this dark secrecy will then have been in vain.
It is a typical October morning, cold and wet. My child Jens, gripping my hand tightly, is only 4. He has no idea what's going on. He skips alongside me, completely oblivious. However, I walk stiffly, laced with anxiety. We follow the hearse, dressed in black, carrying flowers, leading the procession. If we are found out, it's all over, and there will be no tomorrow for my beloved son. We have arrived. Defying Hospital is here. These amazing people have risked their lives to save ours. All of us. When these people knocked on my door a few days ago, they said they were going to get us out of here. And I could not believe it. They said they had a plan to get 40 Jews to the coast and then all the way to Sweden. I just stood in the doorway, speechless. I wondered, why are they doing this? How do they plan on doing this? But maybe they are lying. They carried on talking about their plan to get us out, and they seemed genuine, so I gave my okay. If this is my chance to get my son away from all this with me, I'm taking it. A false funeral procession through the streets of Copenhagen to get us to the coast sounded ridiculous to me. But here we are, safe and sound, for the time being. We will be hiding in Defying Hospital until the trucks arrive to take us to the boats. Only 40 of us were meant to be going today, but word had spread fast. 140 turned up for the procession this morning. Apparently, only 40 of us can be taken to the boats today. The rest of us will have to stay in the hospital overnight. Waiting. The trucks should be here soon. Jens is sleeping soundly in my arms as we wait in the hospital's psychiatric building. I was told that we would be one of the ones leaving today. That cheered me up a bit. The hospital is huge, being made up of several buildings. It's also quite warm, warmer than I was expecting. There are lots of short corridors, like a maze, and all the walls are blue and white, with the odd piece of artwork here and there. Quite a grand-looking building from the outside too, I might add. But for now, we wait. It's time. Time to go. Jens is stirring awake now, and making tired, groaning noises. The people have just come in, and have started to get those who are leaving today to the door. I'm the first to the door, with Jens, eager to leave. Once everyone is gathered, we go. We walk briskly through the confusing layout of the hospital. But the people whom we are following seem to know where they are going. A right, then a left, then another left, then another right. It keeps going on and on. Jens is now fully awake. Where are we going now, Mummy? Jens asks. I don't answer. I just carry on walking as quickly as possible, but still staying with everyone else. I'm hungry, Mummy, Jens says again. Don't worry, it's going to be okay. We'll get you some food soon enough, I replied. But I'm hungry, Mummy. I know. At last, we're outside again. I take in a deep breath of fresh air. There is a pleasant, cool breeze. The sky, however, is still dismal. We're lightly jogging now. I can see the trucks now, and relief fills my body. Those are the trucks that will take us to the boats, that will save my son and I, and so many others. Thank you is the only thing I can say in my head at the moment. Thank you. This is a story based on how almost all of the Jewish population in Denmark was saved by their fellow countrymen.
All the noises. Every creak of the floor, like a bullet from a gun. Every breath, like the growls of a starved stomach. Every word, like a threat of death. Every flickering light, like the roaring of a fire. Every noise is louder than the last. The floor creaked. I'm only human. Saving the world is beyond my capability, but I have a family and a life of my own. It's my responsibility to save others. It would be a sin not to do so. A deep breath, a new war, another family, a world's worth of responsibility. My lifestyle attempts to mimic theirs, adopting more anxiety with each passing minute.
The question haunts me every night. My family's life is at risk. Is that right? Someone spoke. My heart throbs, beating twice a second. One thought is always on my mind. Tomorrow is another day, but will it be a full one? The unknown lingers. Apprehension washes over me, draining my body of any peace within. The light flickers. I feel all these emotions gnawing at my insides, but I have to hide them, because if I can't, my life is on the line.
A single tear cut through the streaks of dirt that covered my gaunt face. I struggled to breathe. As I lay, shrouded in darkness, the fate of my life was decided below. I heard the officers, the deafening crack of splintered wood as they broke down the door. Shouts of anger, they demanded answers. My Saviour spoke with the words of an angel as he fought for my life and lied through his teeth. How brave he was. They say that your life flashes before your eyes, but they're wrong. You see only the things you love. Hope, family. I saw the streets of Poland where I used to live, the parks and the fields and the markets. I saw all that I had lost. I saw all that they had taken. The sound of shattered glass broke through my thoughts, dragging me back to the damp, rotting attic that stood in the way of death. I heard the sharp knock on the rough brick wall that signaled my safety. I breathed a sigh of relief. It seems that the dice had been rolled in my favour. I stretched out my limbs and opened the trapdoor, threw down the rope and began my descent. I thanked God and the old man below for the right to survive another day.
This is the factual and remarkable story based on the Holocaust survivor Hannah Sarah Rigler. She was running away from a death march when she fortunately ran into British prisoners of war. They protected her and brought her back to healthy conditions. I'm sprinting and they're chasing. The sounds of the police's footsteps have faded. Endless green fields to the right of me, and I feel a spark of freedom. In the far I see a barn. The sign of humanity gives me energy to nearer them. I mutter the words, "Are you Polish?" He shakes his head. "No, I'm British." And I go by the name Stan Wells. But why is a British man living in a foreign country at such times of war? "Are you Jewish?" He shakes his head again. He detects my bewildered sense and goes on to clarify. "I am a prisoner of war. I was captured in 1940, and I am working as a labourer on a German farm alongside a few other men." His kind voice allows me to feel at ease. "You're shivering. Let me fetch you a blanket." But what he doesn't know is that I've been shivering for 3 years. I wake up to the warmth of a blanket and surrounded by men. Never in my life have I known a man who isn't Jewish. I've known monsters, but I've never known men. Their smiling reveals the caring essence that they withhold. "We will arrange to have you live in a hole in a barn that we have accessibility to. We are locked up at night, but we are let out in the morning to work, and we will visit you every day." The man says. I open my mouth to gratify them for their generosity, but struggle to, as my mouth is trembling. The unforeseen serenity of this all makes me realize the discomfort in which I have been living in. I suddenly shake as my body temperature is below normal, and scrape my irritated head as it's infested with insects. The men exit the room, but shortly return with paraffin to rub into my hair, and so many blankets that I can't help but release the sound of laughter. The feeling is sensational, a feeling that is foreign to me, as it has been absent for so many years. One of the men cheekily drags me outside. I realise that I was dressed in warm articles of clothing whilst I was asleep. Before I know it, I've been pushed against the magical powder of snow, yet it feels warm, like a warm dream. It's been 3 weeks since I've been living in this idyllic location with men whose lives circulate around generosity. These men have revived my soul and heart. I wouldn't have survived without them. They have reinvigorated my life just as the stars reinvigorate the sky. They have given me hope which I now know to be true.
smuggling out a large number of children, larger than we've ever had before. As soon as we broke the chains of the ghetto, we sprinted down the dark alleys, the wind whistling in our ears. I hid the infants in my cellar, their trepidation piercing the silent night. The children let out muffled cries as I tended to each individual's needs. One of the smaller ones splashed about in my sister's caring arms. Loud yelps of, "I hate you," echoed around the empty basement, trying to break the hearts of steel that we possessed. Some children, their eyes wide open with fear, stared blankly at the whitewashed walls of the basement. Their hands were clasped around their knees, their knuckles white, rocking to and fro. When dawn came, the children were taken to different homes, and the sorrow in their eyes bore through my own, tugging at my heartstrings. I soon remembered that this was for their own good, and my spirits were lifted slightly. I'll never forget the last thing that one of the fathers muttered to their young child's tear-stained face. He promised that they would be reunited at the end of the war, yet soon after he was housed into a line. Destination, Treblinka. It was then that made me realise I had to allow these children a chance at life, parents or no parents. Stories like this broke my heart, and it made me even more determined to rescue the innocent children. Children were sporadically taken into the monastery and cared for with utmost amounts of love and compassion. Today was also the day we could finally allow some of the children out into the real world, the world full of spiteful Nazis. For the last 3 months, free time was spent revising Catholic hymns and getting used to acceptable Polish names. The chains binding these children from feeling accepted have been sliced open. There is light at the end of the tunnel. My heart, frozen by the act of the Nazis, is finally beginning to melt. It is warmed by the life restored to the children's eyes, their gratitude and the excitement of being free. Another long day of struggle was passed, yet many lives were saved. Overall, we were successful. We need to get on with everyday life now, waiting for another chance to help the poor souls. From Irena.
In early January, we heard of the horrendous terror attacks in Paris. On 3 consecutive days, shootings occurred against people because of what they stood for. 12 people were murdered at the Charlie Hebdo offices, a policewoman was murdered the day later, and then a siege of a kosher supermarket where 4 people were murdered. However, through all this tragedy, we could see the righteous among us.
Lasana Bathili worked at the Hypercacher supermarket. He is a 24-year-old Mali-born Muslim residing in Paris. Thinking on the spot, he went to hide the customers in a large fridge that he turned off. "You stay quiet there, I'm going back out," he said, comforting the scared customers. Bathili escaped the building to alert police on the location of the hostages, but he was arrested as they thought he was a conspirer as he knew a way out the back.
It soon became clear he had saved the lives of many when the hostages were freed and came out to thank him. Lasana humbly stated that, "People are calling me a hero, but I am not a hero. I am Lasana, and I will always just be myself." He was granted French citizenship in gratitude for his heroic actions.
There are righteous people all among us. We don't know who they are, but they show selflessness and courage in times of need. Lasana Bathili is one of them. There are many more unrecognized righteous people who have displayed these honorable, selfless and brave acts in the present day and in past times of terror and injustice.
As Bathili said, "Yes, I helped Jews get out. We're brothers. It's not that we're Jewish or Christian or Muslim. We're all in the same boat." And that really portrays what today has been about.
To conclude with Bathili's words, long live liberty, long live friendship, long live solidarity, and long live friends.
It's my living to write words, but I'm not going to try and say anything to follow what we've just heard. Thank you, JCoSS, for hosting this. Thank you, Jewish Book Week, for instigating it. But thank you all those fantastic writers and performers in Akiva and JCoSS for making this It's been a memorable few weeks for me, a memorable afternoon, hopefully, for you all. Thank you so much. And thank you, Ali, for organising the ins and outs of it. You don't know what goes on in the background. Thanks very much indeed. Thank you.